Welcome to Smart Garden, fellow gardeners. Today's video is going to transform how you think about composting forever. Is a compost tumbler really worth it, or is it just a fancy gimmick? Can humble eggshells truly supercharge your soil? And why are some people throwing seaweed into their compost? Get ready to unlock the secrets to creating the most potent, plant-loving compost you've ever seen, debunking common myths, and revealing surprisingly effective techniques along the way. Let's start with a hard truth that might sting a little. Many of us are actually slowing down our composting process without even realizing it. One of the biggest myths I encounter is that you can throw absolutely anything labeled biodegradable into your compost pile. Those biodegradable plastic bags and cups, they're designed to break down in industrial composting facilities at temperatures your backyard pile will never reach. You'll be waiting years for them to decompose, and they'll likely contaminate your finished compost with microplastics. Another myth that's surprisingly persistent is the set-it-and-forget-it mentality. I've seen too many gardeners create what I call zombie compost piles, stagnant, smelly mounds that attract every pest in the neighborhood. The truth is, neglecting your compost creates anaerobic conditions that produce that awful rotten egg smell and slow decomposition to a crawl. Your compost needs oxygen to thrive, and without regular turning or proper aeration, you're essentially creating a breeding ground for harmful bacteria instead of the beneficial microorganisms that create rich, dark compost. The meat and dairy myth is another big one. While these materials are technically organic, they break down too slowly in home composting systems and attract unwanted visitors like rats and flies. The same goes for pet waste. It contains pathogens that your compost pile can't eliminate unless it reaches extremely high temperatures consistently. Stick to plant-based materials, and your compost will thank you with faster decomposition and fewer problems. Now let's talk about compost tumblers, because this is where things get exciting. If you're working with limited space or, just kind of tired of the physical demands of turning a traditional pile, a tumbler might be your composting game changer. The enclosed design isn't just about looking neat, it's actually creating a controlled environment that keeps pests out while maintaining optimal moisture and temperature levels. The beauty of a well-designed tumbler really lies in its efficiency. While traditional piles can take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years to produce finished compost, a properly managed tumbler can deliver black gold in as little as 6 to 8 weeks during warm weather. The key here is the improved aeration you get from regular turning, which is honestly as simple as giving the tumbler a few spins every couple of days. This constant mixing ensures that fresh oxygen reaches every part of your compost, feeding the aerobic bacteria that do all the heavy lifting. When choosing a tumbler, size matters more than you might think. A tumbler that's too small just won't generate enough heat for efficient decomposition, while one that's too large becomes difficult to turn when it's full. Look for models with dual chambers if you're serious about continuous composting. While one batch is cooking, you can be adding fresh materials to the second chamber. Drainage holes are non-negotiable, and removable doors make harvesting your finished compost infinitely easier. The real pro tip for tumbler success is the layering technique. Start with coarse materials like small twigs or wood chips at the bottom for drainage, then alternate thin layers of green materials like kitchen scraps with brown materials like shredded paper or dry leaves. This creates air pockets throughout your compost, preventing the compaction that can turn your tumbler into an anaerobic mess. Here's where we dive into the fascinating world of calcium and marine nutrients. Eggshells aren't just kitchen waste, they're a slow-release calcium supplement that can prevent blossom end rot in your tomatoes and peppers. But here's the catch that most gardeners miss. Whole eggshells take years to break down in your compost. The secret is in the preparation. After removing all the egg whites and membranes, dry your shells completely, then grind them into a fine powder using a clean coffee grinder. This dramatically increases the surface area, allowing the calcium to become available to plants much faster. Even ground eggshells are slow release, which is actually perfect for your garden's long-term health. Add about a tablespoon of ground eggshells per cubic foot of compost, and you're giving your plants a sustained calcium boost that lasts throughout the growing season. The sharp edges of coarsely crushed eggshells also serve as a natural deterrent to soft-bodied pests like slugs and snails, though you'll need to refresh this barrier regularly as the shells weather and break down. For composting safety, remember that hot composting temperatures above 140 degrees Fahrenheit will eliminate any potential salmonella bacteria, making your finished compost completely safe for food gardens. Now, let's talk about seaweed, nature's most underutilized compost accelerator. Fresh seaweed is packed with trace minerals that are often depleted in inland soils, including potassium, magnesium, and iodine. But what makes seaweed truly special is its role as a biological activator. The natural growth hormones and carbohydrates in seaweed literally wake up the microbial community in your compost, speeding decomposition and improving the final product's biological activity. If you're lucky enough to live near the coast, collect drift seaweed from the high tide line rather than harvesting living plants. Always check local regulations, as some areas protect their marine ecosystems from foraging. Inland gardeners can purchase dried kelp meal or liquid seaweed extracts, which provide similar benefits in concentrated form. The key to using seaweed successfully is, well, preparation. Chop fresh seaweed into smaller pieces to prevent it from forming slimy, oxygen-blocking mats in your compost. And a quick rinse removes excess salt, though honestly some salt is actually beneficial for activating those helpful bacteria. Mix seaweed with carbon-rich browns at a ratio of about 1 part seaweed to 3 parts browns. This helps maintain proper balance and, prevents any unpleasant odors from developing. Even experienced composters face challenges, and knowing how to diagnose and fix problems quickly can really save you months of frustration. A compost pile that's too wet becomes a soggy, smelly mess that attracts flies and produces greenhouse gases instead of valuable compost. The squeeze test is your friend here. Just grab a handful of compost and squeeze it. It should feel like a wrung-out sponge, holding together but not dripping water. If it's too wet, just add dry browns like shredded paper, cardboard, or dry leaves, and turn the pile to introduce air. Conversely, compost that's too dry simply stops decomposing. If your pile looks like dry leaves and kitchen scraps sitting unchanged for months, you need moisture and nitrogen. Add green materials like fresh grass clippings or vegetable scraps, and water the pile lightly while turning it. The goal is consistent moisture throughout, not wet spots surrounded by dry areas. Temperature problems are trickier but solvable. If your pile isn't heating up, it's usually because it's too small, lacks nitrogen, or needs more air. A compost pile needs to be at least 3 feet by 3 feet to generate sufficient heat, and it needs the right balance of carbon and nitrogen materials. The magic ratio is approximately 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen by weight, though this sounds more complicated than it is in practice. Just aim for roughly equal volumes of browns and greens, adjusting as needed based on what you observe. When your compost develops an ammonia smell, you've got too much nitrogen and not enough carbon. Add dry browns and turn the pile to restore balance. A sulfury, rotten egg smell indicates anaerobic conditions. Your pile needs air, so turn it more frequently and consider adding coarse materials to improve structure. Recognizing finished compost is an art that comes with experience, but there are clear indicators to guide you. Perfectly finished compost has an earthy, forest floor aroma that's unmistakably rich and pleasant. The texture should be crumbly and dark, resembling rich soil rather than recognizable organic matter. Most individual materials should be completely broken down, though small pieces of woody stems or tough materials may remain. The temperature test is definitive. Finished compost will be at ambient temperature, indicating that the decomposition process has stabilized. If your compost is still warm or hot, the microorganisms are still actively breaking down materials, and it needs more time. Your finished compost is incredibly versatile. As a soil amendment, you can work it into garden beds at a ratio of about 1 part compost to 3 parts existing soil for those heavy feeding plants like tomatoes and roses. For established perennial beds, A 2-inch layer of compost spread on the surface and lightly worked in provides gentle, sustained nutrition. And, potted plants really thrive in mixes containing up to 25% compost, which improves both drainage and water retention while providing slow-release nutrients. Creating compost tea extends your black gold even further. Steep a shovelful of finished compost in a 5-gallon bucket of water for about a week, stirring every now and then strain it out. Use this nutrient-rich liquid to feed your plants during the growing season. This technique is especially valuable for container gardens and young transplants that need gentle nutrition. Maintaining a continuous composting cycle, well, it really ensures you'll never run out of this garden gold. Start your second pile or tumbler chamber while the first is finishing, and consider having 3 piles in rotation. 1 being built, 1 actively composting, and 1 ready to harvest. This system provides a steady supply of finished compost throughout the growing season and makes the best use of your garden waste and kitchen scraps all year round. The real magic of composting lies not just in the finished product but honestly, in the process itself. You're literally participating in the fundamental cycle of life, death and renewal that sustains all terrestrial ecosystems. Every banana peel and autumn leaf you compost is a step toward healthier soil, more resilient plants and a more sustainable garden that works with natural processes rather than against them. If this deep dive into composting has inspired you to take your garden to the next level, don't forget to subscribe to Smart Garden for more in-depth gardening guides that actually make a difference in your growing success. Share this video with fellow gardeners who are ready to unlock the secrets of truly exceptional compost, and drop a comment below sharing your own composting discoveries. Until next time, keep growing smart.